Asante Ochre. Whether the basis of my questions to Musa are solid. So, Doc, from a journalist perspective, there's a sense in which a survey can be very good to help a process, but there's also a sense in which a survey can confuse or probably even prejudice a process. And I'm inclined for the latter view. I don't know. Where do you stand on this? The survey put up by Musa Dankwa and the fact that the process for even hearing the matter has not fully been gone through. What do you think?
Well, let me say good evening to your listeners. I think you have also pinned me to the wall. Mr. Abler, it is not a good position to be for now because definitely public opinion will one way or the other influence the way some legal processes may take place. Other times too, it may not. But if, for example, for the good of the country, a decision ought to be taken and the public opinion is equally valued along the processes, then there is nothing, especially when it is in sync with the judicial process or the legal processes, then it means that there is nothing that those who are in the fray can do than to go by what is on the ground. It may coincide with public opinion, but it may not directly be the one influencing what the legal process or the finality or the conclusion of the process should be. As I said earlier on, be that as it may, it is possible that this public opinion could, one way or the other, influence the process, but it should also be founded on law. And that is my view on that.
But I'm sure you know there's a reason why they tell us in media not to do trial by media. And that's why there's this whole conversation about sub judice. Because when an issue is even in the courts, there's a sense in which unregulated discussions of it could influence the views around the person, even if it doesn't influence the outcome, right? So if you say Bernard Apple is a thief and you discuss it for 3 weeks, even if he's proven to be innocent, in the minds of the public, he's a thief. So I'm just asking how we should sort of treat these surveys in the middle of a process that is quite elaborate and well spelled out. Because if we go to Article 146, they've listed specific things that have to happen. And as you can see, the president is following the process, right? So there's been a petition. Council of State have established their whatever they are supposed to do. And then we will know if a prima facie case has been established. A committee will be formed. Those processes are quite elaborate. And one of the key issues in that process is that all proceedings under this article should be held in camera. Clearly, the framers realized that putting petitions and the subjects, the allegations against a high office like CJ in the public domain may not be the best, which is why they thought to do it that way. So in discussing it, the public also ought to be quite sensitive to that. Should we not be?
Yeah. I think that you have elaborated on that particular point of view, and I agree with you. But let us also look at it from this particular perspective. The minority leader is reported to have said that a committee, the petition that some of us are not privy to, he says that it contains flimsy excuses. Now, that in itself is equally prejudicing. So it means that this particular call from minority, for example, asking religious leaders to intervene, pastors, opinion leaders, civil society, traditional leaders, and so on and so forth, to intervene, they have gone on the tangent of politics rather than legality. They have strayed off the tangent of legality to the arena of politics, virtually putting the president on the top box, as though the president is the one going to influence the process one way or the other. And to also go ahead to suggest that the petition contains flimsiest of excuses, it means that through whatever process he's gotten access to the petition, and that is the view that for him is putting in the public domain. That in itself, if we are to bridge that with global analytics data, then the two of them may be equally guilty. And one way or the other, one is trying to put in the public domain a process that should influence the whole process to go this way instead of the other side. But in the case of the global analytics data, for example, poll, for example, it is nothing personal. These are respondents' view, and he has put out there in terms of percentages. In the middle of that, as you rightly pointed out, it could, one way or the other, obfuscate the issue. Or one way or the other, it could make the Chief Justice look guilty even before the whole process starts. And so, I wouldn't hold brief for anyone. But from the side of the minority, for example, they have made it personal. And asking the president not to do A, B, C, and D, and significantly coming from the minority, it's as if the Chief Justice is an MPP person, which I don't have any evidence to that effect. But it is quite strange. Yes, I don't have any evidence there. It's quite strange that it appears solely the MPP minority have made it their task to frustrate the process. That in itself equally puts the Chief Justice in a very tight
Of course, we do know that the minority and the opposition have their role, and they will oppose based on whatever information they have. So while we do not justify the choice of words, it's within their right to express their view. What is useful, in addition to what you've said about Musa's survey, is that clearly there's a political divide on support for this. So his poll shows that 79% of voters who voted for Mahama in the election support the move, with only 4% of Mahama voters opposing it. Whilst those who voted for Bawumia, only 17% support the move and 47% oppose. So clearly, we can see that even the public is divided along political lines already. And if anything at all, Musa's survey has confirmed that for us. So in that sense, it's useful. My final question to you, how do we proceed so that the process is fair for all? Because you've pointed out both sides doing things that may not necessarily, at least the MPP side and then the survey. How do we proceed to ensure that what is left of the process is fair so we get the best outcome?
I think if you asked me, the president has been very fair in this particular, process. Quite fairer than that of what the former president did with respect to Senator Say, in which she did not have access to the petition that was leveled against her. In the case of the Chief Justice, she's had access to it, and it appears that snippets of the petition have already come out. That in itself, we cannot tell who might have leaked that particular information. That in itself, creates a problem for the process. Because going forward, if you are not careful, some people may assume that it is the Chief Justice that might have leaked that information into the quarters of the minority because they appear to be supporting her. And that's the more reason why, the other side may think that if you want to play the game fairly, that there are certain things that you ought not to have done. And if you have gone on that tangent, then they're also going to go on a full hog. I think that we may have to hold our brakes. The process, as per the constitutional provision, should continue. If it leads to an acquittal, so be it. If it leads to a dismissal, I think that the process must go ahead and we'll see to the finality of the whole process. And then Ghana continues in terms of our democracy. But there is one particular thing that I think Swami MP also said in an interview to the effect that the NDC or the president wants to remove the Chief Justice so that they will put their puppet there. Now, that created the impression as though Chief Justice Tokunu, I don't know whether she was put there by the president to be a puppet of the former president. If that reverse logic is anything to go by, then it is going to obfuscate the whole process. And that in itself will not create an environment in which the Chief Justice could be treated fairly. But I pray that the way and manner the president has started for the process of having to run over the petition to her and asking her response within a stipulated time, of which she did, I think that if you are to look at it from that perspective, then the process should be allowed to go on fairly to get to the conclusion of it.
Fair enough. Thank you for your insights, Dr. Jonathan Asantiochi, political analyst at the University of Cape Coast. Eyewitness News is live.